Hello. So, it's International Women's Day. Women have a whole month now here in Canada, and let me just get right into it. Suicide, obviously being one of the topics of this series, History of Propaganda. And, obviously I'm quite isolated in my life. And as you get older, it's a lot harder to maintain relationships. And it's well known, naturally, especially among seniors. But life as a contractor, independent business person, traveling across the country is especially isolating. And the temporary nature of it is usury. With the way things are at this very moment, it's very hard to, actually almost impossible, to even keep your head above water. And I think about the pressures that are put on men, to provide some contrast here for this Women's Day. Because there's a lot of things that men do for the love of women that go completely unrecognized and get taken advantage of and get ignored. And if there's one thing that I don't like, and I know many other men don't like, it's being ignored and being ostracized or being given the silent treatment. Not having any attention. It comes from this ideation that men don't have emotions and so forth, or men don't care, or can't be caring, or not kind, so on and so forth. This propaganda that the man is the root of all evil. Especially within intersectionality and power structures. Always this talk about power structures. Why the obsession with power? Obviously, there's not very much that I haven't said in other videos. But since people don't look at all the videos, then you have to keep repeating the same themes, thoughts and feelings. I've been around and was involved with a suicidal woman. And I've always tried to use the internet as a means of looking after people, looking out for them as best I can, just as a caring person, because you have to give love to get love. I'm wearing this Bombardier shirt. Typically worn by the engineers at the program. And I wonder about the motivations of going going global, so to speak, and whether or not that was done for love or for profit. Because when profit gets in bed with power, there's no love anymore. And when this psychopathy and this narcissism that is so prevalent throughout social media and dating applications, excuse me, mixed with the markers of the utopia experiment. Yeah, okay, so he's talking about this stuff again. So I'm staring at the statistics for suicide, the rates. First one here is from the Center for Suicide Prevention. And up front, of course, this was the first result today on the Google. So I'll just run through this here now. 1,013 women died by suicide in Canada in 2013 compared to 3,041 men. 141 women died by suicide in Alberta in 2013 compared to 394. Women and girls attempt 1.5 to 2 times more often than men and boys. Suicide attempts happen 10 times more often than suicide deaths in women. Teen girls have been dying by suicide more often than previously. This is attributed to an increase in the use of lethal means, principally suffocation, where a suicidal attempt can be more likely result in suicidal death. 2010 Alberta women accounted for 58% of 1,833 hospital admissions and 61% of 5,053 ER visits for attempted suicide or self-inflicted injuries, and young women 15 to 19 were admitted most often. So then it goes into depression, protective factors, risk factors, postpartum, domestic violence, childhood sexual abuse, eating disorders, body image issues. So, the usual suspects. Now, the woman that I was with, she cut. And she didn't like talking about it, but I loved her anyway. So that's what made it even more painful. I've been around other women like that recently. And I didn't get involved. But it still hurts. It still hurts me. This is from BBC, and it's about why is the male suicide rate still several times higher than female. So in 2016, last year, global data was available from the World Health Organization. There was an estimated 793,000 suicide deaths worldwide. Most were men. In the UK, male suicide rate is lowest since 1981. This, of course, the writing of this was before COVID. It was March 17th, 2019. Three times more likely to die by suicide in Australia, 3.5 times more likely to die in the US, and more than 4 times more likely in Russia and Argentina. WHO's data shows that nearly 40% of countries have more than 15 suicide deaths per 100,000 men. Only 1.5% show a rate that high for women. And what this says to me is symptomatic of the new wave feminism, because women work together They have higher degree of connection, so to speak, connectivity, agreeableness, as Peterson says. More likely to go with the flow in order to stick in a social group naturally. Of course, there's biological and evolutionary means or reasons for that. This one is from NIH. Why women are less likely than men to commit suicide. Just hear my dad say, "I'm ready to leave this earth any day." Major depression forms the background of upwards of half of all suicides. Women are twice as likely as men to experience major depression, yet women are 1/4 as likely as men to take their own lives. Current and past explanations of this paradox are built on androcentric assumptions that women are deficient in some way. I don't know about that. Murphy. This was published in 1998. Murphy, G.E. Some more statistics. Let's go to the Canadian one. So 2019. This is from the U.S. 1950 to 2019. And 2019, it was 22.4 male deaths by suicide versus 6. All right. And then the one here off of Stats Canada is from 2009. Let's archive content, this one. Is that there were 3,890 suicides in Canada, a rate of 11.5 per 100,000. And suicide rate for males was 3 times higher than the rate for females, 17.9 versus 5.3 per 100,000. Although suicide deaths affect almost all age groups, those aged 40 to 59 had the highest rates. Married people had a lower rate than those who were single, divorced, or widowed. Now, as I've said before, I go onto these dating sites or the applications, and the number of women, the single mothers, single working mothers, let's put it like that, the amount of stress that's on that person is, it's scary, it's alarming, and that falls in line with this part of the feminist propaganda. The SJW trying to balance the scales and create a more equitable society, and this chasing of male idealism or more feminine masculinity in order to have authority and like bitch boss or yas queen, slayer, Queen Bey sort of thing, which is is not realistic for most women. It really isn't. Not especially so correlating to celebrity culture and their idealisms of what it is to be in power. But from my observation, in more than one case, through personal experience, as soon as a woman gets to power, she ruins everything. It's not personal. It's just in these individual circumstances. It mixed with the feminist propaganda and the agenda. It ruins men's lives. Because of the isolation, the social pressures, so on and so forth. The tattletale mentality that happens within organizations, or at least this is what I feel from the observations. It becomes a toxic culture It really does. And that's unfortunate, you know, because a lot of women don't understand men. They don't understand the more the higher, sorry, not the more, but the higher tendency towards stoicism, which is, you know, there's a lot of men out there like myself that feel so deeply that if we express ourselves, it would just lead to crying, because it's just a great tragedy, you know, because of the high expectations mixed with, you know, the narcissism and the technology and the means of the propaganda, the repetition, the frequency, and the temporary nature of relationships. I've always, you know, even in my ineptitude, in my inability to communicate at times because of the shock of running into people, that I look at them, and even though I've been, when I was in my younger years, a victim of years of ostracization and bullying, you know, eventually just stopped giving a shit about other, like maintaining social connections and being a lone wolf in my own regard. But you know, after a while it gets tiring, because you know, isolation. Here's another bookmark, because I talked about this before. Loneliness. Where is it? I'll just look this up. Okay, social, of course, this being a topic of discussion during COVID, and more so in the visibility now. To higher physical effects, mental conditions, so high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, weakened immune system, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease, and even death. This is the first result on Google. Of course, today is March 8th. This is off the National Institute of Health, so NIH.gov, from April 23rd, 2019. And the reason why I'm after this, you know, this brave mentality of women, you know, it's very much a transferring of, you know, okay, so what the new wave feminists would call toxic masculinity, but you know, there's toxic femininity, and it was observed, you know, because obviously it goes both ways, but the social trends from the 70s onwards, say with like Mary Tyler Moore, and you know, the transition of women from subordinate roles into more authoritative roles. But as is the pattern, those who have never had power before, and are hurt, right? They have some sort of past of history of abuse at the hands of say men, or by other women, because you know, I look at that tag, you know, women supporting women, and women are freaking nasty, just nasty, you know. And the you think young men are bad to each other, but we would just fight each other once and then not talk to each other for a while, you know. Pistols at dawn, get it over with. But women don't fight with their fists. They fight with their words and their actions. So, personal experience, since I'm going to put this on the internet, I don't really care. I got charged with criminal harassment by a woman that I loved, and I still love to a degree. But trying to reach out to her and talk to her in a moment of panic because of burnout and isolation. Because, again, it's very hard to live on the road. It's not what you think it is. And even when you're having fun with your friend, your work buddies, I know other men that are feeling the same way. They're missing their families or their wives, and there's a joke, and it's called aviation-induced divorce syndrome. Because how are you supposed to have a family when you're on the road all the time? The societal expectations. And the court system, as is documented, has an inherent bias towards the women in most decisions. And, again, mixed with the political agenda of intersectionality and restructuring power structures, under the guise of doing good for women, but is entirely communism, and it doesn't benefit the lower class women as much as it does the higher class women that have all the time in the world to do to administer these policies and have the social influence through either their fame or fortune and reach. It's just not fair. It's just not fair. And so the tactic, as it has been in the past, and again, I'll speak from personal experience. I don't know if any of you, well, a lot of you, if you ever watch this, or how many of you rather, have experienced being stood up by a woman. And that's happened to me more than once for dates. And once in high school, and then once thereafter, I'd say after university here in London. I remember she was a law student, and obviously she was trying to ride the dick carousel, picking whatever option was best for her, even though she was still talking to me. And that's one of the behaviors that I really don't like and that I've been affected by is, again, I don't even want to deal with these dating apps anymore. I don't want to be part of this meat market. I just want one woman and one family, because I'm at the point where I don't want to continue living this life of just being on my own. I love my dog, I love my family members, but a man without a woman is pretty useless. A king without a queen is powerless. And when you face social rejection or isolation, especially as a man for having different viewpoints than the culture of the day, that's what leads to cultural suicide. Again, and when men don't have options, the weak ones will turn to homosexuality, and that ruins public trust even further, in my opinion, because you never know who you can trust and who you can't. And again, I say this as a not as a victim, but having experienced sexual assault by a gay man. right? I'm not a victim. And I don't expect people to give me pity or sympathy, because I'm tired of talking about this stuff already. I'm tired of listening to it for years now, because of the victimhood culture and the subjectivity, the wishy-washy, timey-wimey bullshit. Especially as a more feminine man, as I said to someone once, up north, there's masculine women and there's feminine men, and there's nothing wrong with that. It used to be okay, as was the culture, that you'd have tomboys, or you'd have, the more. Well, I took home ec in high school. It was one of the very few young men that did that, and I've spent a lot of time around, well, the arts, right? So band, and oh, I forget why I'm having a brain fart right now. In art class, right? Those were sanctuaries. Although I wasn't very good in home ec, it's kind of lazy. Apologies to my work partners. But it was always my feeling more recently that the art world got ruined for me because of the agenda, and someone profiting from my suffering as an in-group preference, a clique. And since I don't get on my knees and perform oral sex for men, or kiss ass and needlessly get involved with social bullshit. I've never been one for this stuff. Kissing ass and doing favors sort of thing. I've always come from the ethic of, put up or shut up. If you got a problem, deal with it and then get over it and move on. Not in the toxic, bury it and hold it as a grudge. Don't, or just try to forget about it and drown it in substances or addictions or fantasy worlds, say like with video games and so forth. Because a lot of us younger people, and I would say especially women, you have to wake up and smell the coffee, right? As I said before in this I'm gonna try and keep it to a half hour. This little conversation I'm having with you. Your actions have consequences, and fertility only lasts so long. There's a very short window, and that's the power of a woman, is the fact that she can have babies. That's the real power, is creation of life. And the betrayal of such for this more masculine, this more turbo lesbian idealism is betrayal of the self and of the culture. And so, okay, I support, always have. I've always done everything I can for the love of women. Not to worship you, but what is life without love? What is life without caring about someone? And hence why this wave painting is titled, for all the women I've ever loved. Because that's the truth. There is no family, there is no society without men. there is no family and there is no society without women. And when the bond of trust is gone, and when, hedonism and power tripping, the abuses of power and the love of money and greed take their place for domination, female domination, and the power, the scales of Libra are unbalanced, then we have a problem. Let's try to solve that, because I love face-to-face relationships, and I don't want to have to deal with people anymore. As someone in their late 30s, and I know there's people that are older who feel the same way, that lived life before the internet, that technology does not take the place of femininity or masculinity. It doesn't take the place of good relationships. And I would love to see someone, a beautiful woman, not to try and be lazy about this, but it would be my dream if a woman, just a beautiful, talented, intelligent woman, landed at my doorstep. That would be amazing, but I know it's unrealistic. So I'm going to continue to put myself out here and talk to a black mirror in the hopes that the message gets through. Because if we don't talk about these things, everyone fails. See you next time.